screaming obese if you're straight. Why aren't you married yet?
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future. Now, topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Well, welcome to another installation of Dr. Judy WTF. Somehow our intro music kind of got lost in the translation today, but you know what? It's tough getting good help these days. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. We had an amazing show last week. For those of you who tuned in, and you should go check it out, we had Dr. Stan Tatkin, who has written a couple of books. One we chatted about, Wired for Love. So if you want to be wired for love with your couple or your spouse or your girlfriend, check it out. This week, we're going to continue our series on the 9 panels of Dr. Judy's mind map, and we're doing
Panel 3.
Panel 3,
Yes.
the encoding.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're not going to lose the theme of the song that we use for all of you who do tune in on a frequent
Yeah,
basis.
it's Club to Death.
Called Club to Death.
Which is one of the theme songs for the main theme from the movie The Matrix.
Absolutely. And just to elaborate on that, mind map is a matrix, and it's a matrix for healing, and it's a matrix for really locating the cause of the problem. And Club to Death is a song that we chose, I think, a bit unconsciously. And
I went through a lot of songs as an intro for the show, and it was semi-unconscious because I knew there was a mind map, and I love The Matrix, and the song is a great song, and I actually edited a little bit for the show.
And then, Walt, I looked at you and I thought, Club to Death. I mean, isn't that what happens to us when we enter the world, where we've got a lot of light, but then
when we enter the world, we're at least
clubbed
spanked.
to death.
When
Yes.
we enter the world, we're at least spanked. Yes.
So today we're going to talk a lot about the hole in the soul and how we encode the wounds of childhood, and kind of recap on how it all goes down, and then talk about how it all ends up.
Yes,
internally.
indeed. The mind map is actually 9 panels with 3 panels each, from the problem through. You want to do it from through to?
Yes, it's a from through to model.
From what through to what to what?
From the problem, which is always a disconnection, and the disconnection starts with mother-infant disconnect, whoever the mother figure is in your life, and sometimes there are many primary caregivers throughout the course of a life, especially when people are moving from home to home, adoption agencies, so on. And then we've got the
Or mom has to go back to work too soon.
that too, multiple caregivers. And so the wounds of childhood occur in panels. You have the panels up so people can see
you
it?
You can see the panels if you're watching us live streaming, or you can go to www.drjudywtf.com.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of a sense of how problems of psychopathology occur, it is always to do with a disconnect. And the first disconnect is always the mother-infant disconnect, because even the process of birth is a disconnect, isn't it? The baby's born, and what happens?
Absolutely, it is.
Exits the
uterus,
the womb.
the placenta.
Right, and then snip, the umbilical cord gets snipped, and then the baby has to learn how to breathe oxygen and relate to the outside world. And so when things don't go too right in that first part of our lives, the first from birth or even pre-birth through the first 2-3 years of life, what happens is that we don't get our, what I call, emotional or narcissistic needs met. And those needs are specifically eye contact, skin contact, consistency, any kind of a form of what I call soothing. Mother soothes the baby learns to self-soothe, and we become healthy. And if in the process of all this we're not getting this, then we develop what I call the hole in the soul. And if the damages are not mitigated by dad and soothed over by panel 2, which we call, as Walt talks about. Do you have it up there, Walt?
I do. I'll put it back up. Yes.
Are you having technical difficulties
We're good.
there? We're good? Okay, so panel 2 is the mitigation of the damages by dad, and dad really welcoming the infant into the world and being the light, the hope of life outside the world of the dyad of the mother and the baby. Now, if all that doesn't go too well, what happens is that we encode some pretty negative core beliefs. And one of the things that I do in my treatment is I work with my patients to dismantle these negative core beliefs, and before doing so, identify what they are, because in essence, they're the psychological virus that then goes viral and messes up the entire belief system of an individual. So we are in the process. Myself and my assistant are in the process of finishing up the book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, and that should be ready in the next month, and we will be announcing that.
Absolutely. It's your thesis, which you've been working on for quite a while.
Very much so.
It's coming out great. We're putting the finishing touches on it. I'll have fun editing it as well, I think, a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like our last book, which was a fiction book entitled Lucid Darkness.
Yes, and
that's available on Amazon.
Thank you, Walt.
It is, and Kindle.
Yes, and Lucid Darkness is my character in fictional form, a psychologist who creates a mind map to heal human disconnect, and then things don't go well for her when she ends up in the Middle East and tries to heal the rift between the nations, and that turns out to be a real psychological thriller of a disaster. So for those of you who own a Kindle.
It's a good summer read coming up. It's an international psychological, literally and figuratively, psychological read.
Yes, for $4.99, I don't think the price can go wrong.
No, it can. As a friend of mine would say, it's a bargain at twice the price.
So, Walt, I know that you
That's
wanted
Lucid Darkness.
Yes, Lucid Darkness. So, Walt, I know that you wanted to read a little bit about.
Well, first off, today is
book.
about core beliefs. Basically, what is your core belief, and what are your core beliefs is a question. And I pulled an article, and basically, the question is, do you know what you believe in? Do you know what your true convictions are? What is the core of your beliefs, and what is the core of who you are as a human being? Now, as a little prelude, I've picked a couple of paragraphs from Judy's book regarding panel 3, and again, she doesn't know what I'm going to read. Oh. So I'm going to start on page 2, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, surprise.
Okay.
So our core belief is a deep-seated, grafted to our blood, bones, muscle, and tissue, and emotional sense of ourselves based on the totality of all of our experiences and knowledge from birth right up to this very moment in our lives. Mm-hmm. It is the meaning that we give to all of it. Our core belief is the sum total of our genetics, our experiences, our nurturing, our nourishment, our infiltrations, and everything else that touches us and how we see ourselves in relation to ourselves, others, and the world itself. Our core belief answers to the question that fill in the blank, I am blank. And we're going to go over those in a couple of moments. And there are a whole bunch of them here. But please, and panel 3 is about choice points. You can dive in any time. I've got the book in front of me here. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So basically, a core belief is when we perceive ourselves through the cracked lens of panel 1, which is the wound. And
the original wound.
What happens to us is that we ingest and we digest, and then we manifest the sponging in of our childhood, and that ends up to be our core belief. And oftentimes it's not very positive. And Walt, you'll go through the list of some of these core beliefs in a few moments. But what I want to talk about is a little bit about how these core beliefs come to be. So tell me if this sounds familiar. And remember, this is a call-in show, so I'd love you guys to call in.
It is a call-in show. I've mentioned that in the beginning, got a little sidetracked. The call-in number is area code 323-843-2826. That's 323-843-2826. So if you have a challenge with pretty much anything, but we're talking about core belief today, one being like, I am not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not pretty enough, stuff like that. Please pick up the phone and dial.
So let's do a little detective work and figure out how this core belief comes to be. And let's just trace back the first few years of your life and know that there are aspects of your life that obviously you do not remember because they are pre-verbal and before you're able to formulate cognitive, clear thinking and really relate it to expression. But there are areas where you do remember, and so here are how negative core beliefs come to be. So listen up and ask yourself, did your parents make fun of you? Call you names? Did they berate you, scream at you, threaten you? Did they criticize? Did they blow up your flaws? Did they make your flaws look super out of proportion? Did they blame you for everything? I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, because I've got a general list here. I think
Okay.
it comes a little better. General negative core beliefs or feelings. A core belief always starts with the I statement, because I, meaning that you've taken ownership. It's I am, right? It's what
Yes.
you are, which in reality isn't what you are, but you believe that you are. General negative core beliefs or feelings are about myself. You're not good enough. Okay, you're incompetent. You're not good enough. You're like unlovable. You're unwanted. You're different, defective, imperfect, bad, powerless, one below, in danger, not safe, don't know, or wrong.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, and I hear this every day in my practice.
Yeah,
I want to give
absolutely.
you a case study about a woman who we're writing about in the book. She came to see me, and she was absolutely catatonically depressed, and turns out that her mother was very, very critical of her and also took her voice away, so made all decisions on behalf of her, and so she pretty much turned into a shell of a person, and she absolutely believed that she was worthless. And so as we started the therapy, I began to explain to her that we conceptualize ourselves based on what we perceive to be the way our parents perceive us. So, in other words, we're ingesting the entire definition of who we are based on how our parents are treating us. That's the only way we know how to self-define, because when we're born, there's really no definition to us at all. And so as this comes to be, and as parents continue to, unfortunately, destroy the self-esteem either through acts of commission or acts of omission, and let me explain this to you. This is really important. There is a way to destroy somebody's self-esteem by commission. So you say to your kid, "You're stupid," or "You're ugly," or you are you're not worth much. And you can treat your child with sarcasm. And the other way that you can really destroy your child is by ignoring your child. So that's the omission. Acts of omission, acts of commission. And I oftentimes, Walt, I find that my patients are missing a piece of what they're upset about, which is that there's always one parent that does something and another parent that stands back and watches, and they forget how upset they are at the parent that stands back and watches the whole thing come down. And that's what I mean by omission. So there's this entire...
Right, the one parent that doesn't do anything is basically co-signing what the other parent is doing. As I say, you're co-signing their BS.
They are. And not only that, Walt, they're betraying.
Yes.
Okay? It's a co-signing and a betraying.
What's interesting is the life issues, folks. The life issues of life that this involves is success, love, belonging, self-worth, control, security, reality, and reason. And I don't know what's left in that list, okay? Your self-esteem is, in my view, pretty much everything. Who you pick as a mate, how you look at yourself in the mirror, what you say to yourself, how you pick a job, how you relate to a job. What's interesting, I was listening to Joel Osteen today, and he says, look, as long as your internal recording is negative, as long as you're saying to yourself that stuff is just radically negative, and you somewhat, even just the tiniest bit, believe it, you will never, ever, ever reach your potential.
And today I had a patient in my office, and I was paying her some compliments, and I noticed that every time I said something positive about her, she clammed
Yeah, she
up.
probably cringed, right?
You could just tell by her body language that she wasn't taking it in at all. And I was explaining to her that what was happening with her is that her negative core belief was so strong that she wasn't able to resonate at all with what I was saying, so that it just flat out, just like Teflon, I would say to her something positive and bang, it would just fall flat to the floor.
Right.
And so what's the treatment plan for that is to allow people to understand that. Well, we'll get to this in panel 5. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Preview coming attractions.
Yeah, preview coming attractions is that we build these defense mechanisms against these horrendous,
Yes, we do.
humiliating, critical, low self-esteem statements that we then have to defend against from the causal period, which is our parents. And then at the end of that journey, we become super defensive, super hardened, and we don't let in the light. And when we don't let in the light, we start to die a little bit. So this encoding is a really, really important concept, because once we understand what our core belief is, we truly, truly understand our Achilles heel.
Yes, this is true.
Okay.
Now, a couple things in, and the thing is, another comment from Joel, so just one more. We do have enough negative people in our life in some way, shape, or form. They're either for us or against us, and life's tough enough. So don't be against yourself.
And that's really, really hard to do, because
It is. It's very difficult.
Walt, I see this in my practice so often, that whatever the message is that they were infiltrated with their
Way back
with their family of origin,
Mhm.
is now a nice little tape, and I call it the what the Freud. Okay,
Absolutely.
WTF is going on.
What
They
the Freud.
keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And I'll repeat it again. They keep repeating this negative self-talk, negative statement, negative belief system about themselves. And then what happens is, a little preview for panel 4, somebody comes along and trips it up. And we'll talk more about that next time.
And unfortunately, what I say is perception is reality. Whatever you perceive, whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, that perception about yourself or somebody else, but we're talking about ourselves today, it is what it is.
So if you look at panel 3, what you'll see is a ladder, a DNA strand, and what I call a prison. Okay?
Prison or prism?
A prison.
Prison.
A prison.
Okay.
We're hostages of our childhood. Childhood is a
Hostage situation.
Thank you. And so because it's a hostage situation, it is a hostage situation because, number one, we are now hostage to the thoughts of what was injected in us by our family of origin. So now we're held hostage by those thoughts. And so what happens is, when we choose a partner, for example, law of attraction.
Yes.
If we don't feel good about ourselves, if we're feeling unlovable, then what often happens is we will choose a partner that will absolutely magnify the feeling that we're unlovable.
And that's massive insult to huge injury.
Right, and I see this with couples all the time. And so if you're in a relationship and you want to call in, please do, because I'm really interested to talk to you about how
definitely.
you both magnify each other's core beliefs. So, for example, if one of you feels worthless and the other one feels powerless, then every time the powerless person goes into the hole of self-defense and goes quiet, the other person will pick up that quiet or the passiveness as, oh, he's not talking to me because I'm worthless. And now the powerless person will think, oh, she's upset at me because I'm powerless and I'm ashamed of myself because I lack the power to really stand up to her and be a man. And then it just spirals all the way down. So once we can grab a hold of that core belief and start really dismantling it, that's where the healing begins.
Absolutely. And this actually is alluded to in your book, Reading On. One direction is becoming powerless and victimized by the unconscious infiltrations that were downloaded into our psyche. This path is riddled with destructive, painful relationships, experiences, and crisis. The other path of reclamation is a journey through the lies and the infiltrations that have penetrated your sense of self for far too long in order to shift your consciousness and ultimately your entire life towards growth and healing and transformation. So
Right.
you have to acknowledge it. You have to admit it. You have to be aware of it. And the second, of course, you have to want to do something about it. And then, of course, you're on your way to healing.
Right. And so when I drew the mind map, I drew DNA Strand because I wanted to show people that we're encoding this stuff. And so if you look at the mind map in more detail, then you'll see little people on the rungs. And so this is a metaphor for people being stuck in their lives. They're stuck. Do you see that, Walt? Did you notice that? After all these
No, I don't
years
see that,
of talking, you didn't see the little people on the.
I haven't seen the little. I haven't seen
the
the little.
rungs?
I haven't seen the little people.
Oh, they're there. The people are there, and some
And
people
if
are.
you don't want to be the little people, you can call us
you
up.
don't want to be the little people.
No, call 323-284. I'm sorry, 323-843-2826. 323-843-2826 if you don't want to be a little people. Or if you feel little, we'll make you big on the show.
And if you don't want to be a little people stuck in jail and stuck at a certain point in your life and really repeating over and over again the patterns of your past, then especially so. And so that's what it is. It's a jail. An encoding is a jail.
Well, I've got 4 steps on how to get out of jail.
Oh, thank you. We're
this,
waiting
wait for
with
that.
bated breath.
Yeah,
Go for it.
Here is your get out of jail free card.
Yes,
okay?
4 of them.
Yes,
4 get
4
out
steps,
of jails.
Yeah, 4
Okay.
cards. So the first is, and I've kind of alluded to this, admit the presence of the limiting belief. You got to admit it. Before you admit you can carry your before you admit that you carry it in your belief system, you have to admit that they're wrong and that there's no proof of it. Okay. The second to changing your limiting beliefs is beware of your mind's tricks. They're usually well hidden in the belief system, and in addition to your mind, they'll play tricks to make them less visible. Self-deception is one of the most common tricks your mind will use to bury a limiting belief further into your belief system. So the third thing about steps changing limited beliefs is beware of the mind's bias. Once you locate a limiting belief, you must pay attention to your mind's bias toward that belief. It's like trying to find a Trojan horse inside a computer. Your mind will always keep collecting evidence that supports its existing beliefs, even if some of them were wrong, and that's why changing a limiting belief might appear so difficult. So you have to really, really monitor your self-talk. And the last step is attempt to prove the opposite. The hardest and the most important step in changing limited belief is to, prove the opposite. It involves trying to prove the exact opposite of the belief by going against it. For example, if you believe that all people hate you, then it's time to develop your social skills and get to know new people until you find people who really like you. It's not as easy as it sounds, but if you did it, you'll change your life and your limiting beliefs forever.
And Walt, when people encounter these positive experiences, it whacks them out a little bit because the core belief is so strong. It's like the Teflon, you see. Positive experiences
Right.
and a negative belief about yourself and, how am I going to negotiate that one? And I'm telling you something, if you go out there and you challenge this and you go out into the community or dare and take the courageous steps to go outside of your comfort zone and start a conversation with somebody even though you believe that you're not worthy or you're not good enough, and taste, because this is really important. You have to taste the success and the good feeling of it, because ultimately
Success begets success.
yeah, we're encoded to heal. Even though I talk so much about the negativity and the darkness, there's a lot of light here, which we will get more and more into. And the light in us, the healer in us, the desire to dismantle the old and the sick
Absolutely.
and the used
And
and
one
the
way,
dysfunctional.
one way I found to dismantle it is, again, to use a question. If you feel I am not worthy, ask yourself, why am I unworthy? What's going to happen is your brain's going to answer the question. And then you can sit there and pick it apart and go, okay, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. So in reality, if those perceptions aren't true, I really am worthy.
See, that's a beautiful question. Why
Yeah.
am I?
Why am I unlovable? Why am I unworthy? Why am
because,
I? Yeah.
Because that
Well, why?
that opens a window, doesn't
Absolutely,
it?
it
Instead of
does.
saying I'm unlovable, which is
Correct.
the jail again.
Right.
Okay, why am I unlovable? That already casts doubt in
Yes,
your mind.
absolutely it
That
does.
why am I unlovable? Because my mother said so. Because my father said so. Because they treated me with lack of kindness and emotional nourishment. Really? Don't I get to make up my mind about who I am? So it opens the window and lets in the light.
And what if your brain has a little crack in it in terms of that belief?
I know mine does. Does
Yeah, I know I'm
yours?
pretty cracked too.
I think so.
I'm whacked and cracked, but then there's hope that you can dismantle it. Right? I mean, you just chip away at it. I mean, I am unlovable. I mean, that's that's a statement of fact, and everything you look around and we do and we see experience is going to prove it. But if it's like, why am I unlovable? Then you can dismantle it, break it down, and probably throw a lot of those pieces out the window once you figure it out.
Yeah, and I want to go back to attachment theory, John Bowlby, and
Sure.
the work of the attachment
Sir John
theory.
Bowlby?
That's his son, Sir Richard
Oh,
Bowlby,
Sir Richard, okay.
and he continues the work,
Okay.
and Mary Ainsworth, and all the work back in England in the 1900s, and I want to tell you a little bit about how parenting styles work to formulate negative and positive core beliefs. So let's put the pieces together, okay, and see how parenting styles of both mother and father form the imprint, the blueprint of the core sense of self. So if your parent is responsive, available, present, predictable, sensitive, focused on you, emotionally attuned, empathic, if the parent is mutually communicating in tones and gesturings, meaning mirroring the baby, if it follows the baby's lead with engagement and is able to soothe that baby, then the child feels safe, protected, soothed, and develops a trust in the caregiver and eventually a trust in the world.
I want to say the trust in the caregiver, that's going to spill over to trust in others. Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so this creates securely attached children. Now, if the parent is dismissive, indifferent, and distant, and neglectful, and absent, and shaming, blaming, and critical, then the child withdraws and becomes seemingly indifferent to parents and doesn't seek or expect comfort or soothing. So these are insecurely, avoidantly attached children. So we can begin to see that the parenting style is really the determinant of the formation of the core sense of self, which then turns into a belief system, which is the core belief.
And there's what has to be dismantled.
And it has to be big time dismantled, right?
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Right.
We are Dr. Judy WTF here, and you can pull us at Facebook or Twitter of that. And or if you want to have a question or comment, we're going to be shrinking a tune soon. And if you want to have a request for a tune you want to shrink, what we do is we take a common or popular song, and I read the lyrics, Judy interprets it, and then we play the song, and it's kind of fun to listen to the song after you shrunk it. You can send it to info@drjudywtf.com, and you can pull us on podcasts on Stitcher or iTunes, and of course here at UBN, Universal Broadcasting Network.
Right, and so the main message here, and I think that you're all hearing it, is that if we want to be a healthier human race and we want to have a life code encoded on within us rather than a death code, a cancerous, tumorescent virus, then we have to be present to our children. That is our future.
Absolutely.
Right. And so just the mere presence and the emotional presence and the consistency will create a fresh, clean, healthy DNA, a a healthy psychological DNA, which will then reverberate into the future generations.
And really, as we've said before in previous shows, it's not really how you start, because you really didn't have a lot of control over being a hostage in the situation you were in. It's how you finish.
Absolutely.
And
Walt.
the part of the DNA in terms of all this, your core belief being very foundational, can be rewritten and or removed or changed. And you can't do it by yourself. It's absolutely impossible. You need help. And Judy's going to be soon setting up stuff on Skyping. So if you can hear our voice, you can do Skype and have a session with Dr. Judy. Of course, she's available for consults, and we'll give the number out in a few minutes.
You know, it was really cool today. I had somebody that was graduating after 10 sessions. It was
There
a
you go,
couple
10 sessions.
graduating. Congratulations. And what was really beautiful for me to watch is that the couple was actually able to mind map each other, mind map themselves, and mind map the relationship, and they were able to see how their core beliefs were tripped up, and how each of them needed to become what Stan Tatkin calls a couple bubble.
Couple bubble, right.
And really be able to function as that soothing element for each other that the parents were not. So if we didn't get the goodies, emotional goodies in the first few years of life, it's not too late. We can still get them from people that we love, and we are wired to connect. We are wired for love.
We are.
No kidding. Our DNA is really set to be relationship oriented. Our brains are very, very much so wired to receive
Yes,
connection.
love, not war.
Right. And so I wanted to detail it a little bit. Here, Walt, there's a couple of things that I wanted to have you elaborate on. Types of injurious parents. See this? Read any of this that hums to you, and I'm sure it will.
Okay, let's see here what we got. The whirlwind parent, the buddy, pass the buck. I think we have a president that does that. So let's. This type of parent doesn't give their children enough face-to-face time during thus damaging their children's ability to bond. Adults who feel inadequate or identity problems may find it difficult to feel up to the task of parenting. They may feel they're not good at, well, we've heard this one. They may feel they are not good at it, and they pass on the responsibility to somebody else they feel are more qualified. Without prioritizing their schedules and monitoring their time, these parents will generate an inability in their children to form lasting relationships in the world.
Right.
So you're saying is, and as a result of the parents not being parents,
Absolutely.
and passing the responsibility and the buck to somebody else,
Right.
not being the parent, then it's gonna spill over and develop into the child.
Yeah, and I'm going through all of this. We're going through all of this so that you can understand how this is all caused. Because again, whatever begins to exist has a cause. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. It's not because your biochemistry is off, although emotional disconnect does indeed end up messing up the neurology and the neurochemistry of the brain, because we are interconnected with our bodies. So today a patient of mine was asking me, well, what about medications? How does that work? And so
that really helps you get connected.
yeah, that really helps you get connected. But, there's a place for medications.
There
And I
is.
was explaining
There
to her that what medications do is it allows for us to have a defense mechanism so that we're not making ourselves crazy and tearing ourselves down with these negative core beliefs, so that we can do the work within the therapy. And some people are so really out there and so damaged by their childhood that these thoughts will not stop. And so the medication can actually act as what I call that biological cast that can bring down the emotions, and then through therapy we can start rebuilding from the inside out.
And again, it's through therapy, meaning you can't do it by yourself, because success in reality is an inside job.
Well, look, Einstein says you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it.
Okay.
So if you're trying to fix your own problems with the same mind that created it, it's not going to work.
Forget about it.
And so that's why when I'm sitting in my chair and patients sitting opposite, they go, "Oh, you make it sound so easy." And I say to them, it's easier from this chair because I'm not emotionally in
Attached.
your situation,
Right.
and I can pull myself out of it and see clearly and gain perspective over your problems. And that's why it's so important to pull our eyes out of that infiltrated past, so that cracked lens no longer interferes with our perception
And
of
how
who
we
we are,
see
because
things,
this
yeah.
is all a perceptual
Yes.
problem.
Want to go through another one?
Please
Okay,
do.
this one. The Marine Corps parent.
Okay.
This type of parent is primarily concerned with obedience and perfection, and I've always said perfectionism is fatal, instead of growth and improvement. Adults who feel their reputation depends on their child's performance try to mold them with military precision. Their children may live in constant anxiety, frustration, or exhaustion just trying to meet that expectation.
Mm-hmm.
These children go out into the world believing that life is about command and control rather than love and empowerment. Wow.
Right. So what
Yeah.
kind of core belief does that leave one with? I don't have an answer, by the way.
Yeah, I was
Guess
gonna
away
say,
at
yeah,
it.
I don't. If I'm not perfect and I don't have the precision, then I would imagine I'm not worthy because I haven't.
not
I
worthy.
haven't met that bar.
Right. If I'm not perfect, I'm not worth much.
Yeah.
And that creates what I call a human doing, not a human being. And we're human beings. And the mind map actually was labeled twice. And the first round was let there be human beings. And we need to let ourselves be human beings, not just doings.
And let children be children, right? I mean, you have in the military style, up to 1-2. No, the kid's got to be a kid. I mean, life's tough enough as it is. And they've got to, have some fun and enjoy life and, get some foundational stuff.
So are you getting it, how the damage goes down? Are you getting it, how this goes viral within? Are you getting it that this is multi-generational, that this came from your parents and their grandparents? And then another whole topic that I want to get into sometime soon is cultural infiltrations.
Well, I've got. Well, let's do one more.
Okay.
This one I think is really prevalent today in our ADDD world.
Okay.
You know which one this is? The no finish line parent. This type of parent never finishes what they start, or they fail to provide the tools their children needs for success. Adults who aren't mature enough to have children in the first place are not prepared for the responsibility for teaching the children to complete essential obligations. Unable to role model a healthy lifestyle, they promote their children in an inability and unresponsibility to constantly follow through on life's requirements. So, this is deep stuff.
Yeah, many parenting styles and many core beliefs that spin off from these parenting styles, and then there's that opportunity, isn't there, to see that our belief about ourselves was not caused by ourselves.
No.
We are not the cause of part one of our life.
I mean, you might believe that you're not worthy, as we've been discussing, but the problem is, you got that practically from the day you were born, and now we have to dismantle it because you are worthy. There was nobody in this planet that was ever born and stamped on their forehead that said, I am not worthy.
And Walt, what do you think these thoughts do to the body? I mean, speaking of
It
mind-body interconnection,
it wears it out like crazy.
I had
you're depressed and
it's
down, and
yeah.
it's just a massively huge weight.
And I had a new patient this week who walked in and said, part of my low self-esteem is now in my back, and he had a hunchback of tension. The muscles actually built a shell.
Wow.
We're talking about, no, seriously,
Oh my
this
gosh.
was very, very physical.
Yeah.
I see so many physical manifestations of what I'm talking about. And it's always so interesting for me to watch these physical manifestations, because I started out wanting to be an MD, and I ended up being a PhD, and I really thought that it was important to have some empirical evidence of what's so. And so I thought, the mind, it's a little foggy in there. You can't really know, and you can't really prove, and it's also theoretical. But now I'm very much seeing the physical manifestations of what we're talking about, psychologically. So we started talking about this literal shell on his back, and he every time he felt the infiltrated past flow through him, he would shrug his shoulders and he would put that armor on, and he had to defend against so much negativity from his mother, from his father, that it actually just locked into a shell.
And it's being, wow,
Right,
that's tough.
right, real tough.
Because I mean,
Right.
you can massage it out, but
Yeah, you have to massage it
It's
out.
going to come back.
Well, if you don't get rid of the negative core belief, that's right. Then what happens to us? We become internally reactive to the
It's
core
got to
belief.
go somewhere.
Yes.
I wanted to switch gears, if you like, to 10 core beliefs I found of the delightfully successful. So instead of
I'm
focusing on the
interested to know.
negative, I am
A
too.
little light.
Yeah, something a little different.
Yes.
We'll switch gears with stuff I
Okay.
like. Trying to put a little twist on, okay, we've got a core belief. We know what the negative core beliefs are, but how about a little, why? The delightfully successful. So I thought we'd touch on 10 of these. Okay. First one is the delightfully successful believe they don't have to wait to be selected. They can simply select themselves. Again, they're worthy, right? Social media allows us to reach out to almost anybody, and anybody can publish their work today, right? I mean, Judy wrote a book, and we self-published it. It's on Kindle. No, you don't have to get the approval of a publisher. It's out there.
Right.
And yeah, we're selling it for less, but you know what? From a royalty perspective, she probably makes more than if she went through all the rigmarole of having a book. So the only thing that's holding you back is your willingness to take a leap of faith and try. Because remember, failure isn't fatal, right? The second core belief of delightfully successful folks is they believe being the first matters less than being the best. Again, perfectionism is fatal. Success is often a result of perseverance, okay? Right? Other people may be smarter, better connected, more talented, more funded, but they can't win if they stop trying, right?
Right.
Don't worry about being first. Focus on being the best one still in the game.
Very interesting. All this talk about the negative core beliefs, and so how refreshing to know that we can recode ourselves.
Yeah, we can.
We can
And
recode
the
ourselves.
third-
We'll talk about that in panel number 7, which is recoding.
Recoding.
Yes.
And what's another preview of coming attractions. So you got to stay tuned.
Yes.
The third one is they believe success seems to be predictable, but only in hindsight, right? I mean, quarterback. Monday morning quarterbacking. Read stories of successful entrepreneurs, and it's easy to think these people have some intangible and intelligible entrepreneurial something, some talent, skill, or idea. Well, it's not the case. They don't. Success is never inevitable. Inevitable success only seems inevitable once inevitable success has been achieved.
That's hindsight for you,
That's
right?
hindsight.
Yeah.
Hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Oh, yeah.
Success is never assured. It's never predestined, right? Number 4 of 10 beliefs of highly successful folks is they believe personal success comes from service, not selfishness. I don't know of anyone who accomplished anything amazing on his or her own. Okay? It takes a village, right?
Yes.
Great leaders focus on providing the tools and training to help other people and their team do it. Your odds of success are proportional to the number of people that want you to succeed. So again, it's about association to have people around you.
And I just wanted to comment that one way to enlist the support of other people wanting you to succeed is to be of service to people. Because when you're of service to people
You're
and you're a value to others in the community. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
When you're in it for yourself, initial success is always finite. Number 5 is they believe in doing a few things no one else is willing to do. There's no traffic jams on the extra mile. It's a line by Zig Ziglar.
Oh, I love that.
There's
It's a
no
beautiful
traffic
line.
jams on the extra mile. Only do what the crowd does, and your career success will be no greater than the average of the crowd. right?
You know, it was really beautiful, wasn't it? You and I had the opportunity to go to Win Clay Bach's fundraiser
We're
this
part of
weekend.
Paul Mitchell.
Paul
Mhm.
Mitchell, the school, and I'll
Yep.
be speaking at the school on May 27th. And I had the wonderful opportunity of being interviewed by Win Clay Bach
Yes.
on a subject called hair therapy.
Therapy.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know, I have a PhD and I'm a licensed cosmetologist and graduate of Paul Mitchell, the school.
So she can work on your head and in your head.
Pretty much so, yeah. And so one of the topics of the interview was about fostering the therapeutic or hairapeutic bond, and
Therapeutic.
whether you're in the hair industry or you're a psychologist, or it doesn't matter what you do. When you have a strong bond with somebody and you're forming a strong bond with another human being, then that's really the basis for the relationship. And the rest of it is actually the performance of the service, isn't it?
Yes, it
And
is.
if that bond is missing, and so if the core belief is negative and you walk in to a situation and you really don't feel good about yourself and you have this psychological virus running through your head, then how are you supposed to be of service to someone else? Because basically you're in the way, aren't you? So you've got to push yourself out of the way to even relate to another human being. And so that requires that you've got to quiet that part of the brain that's chattering away. I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, blah, 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 blah. Because that's not having a relationship. That's having a negative relationship with yourself, and there's no room there for another human being, right?
So getting back to the 10 core beliefs, the life is successful, and then we got to shrink that tune pretty quick. They believe ideas are important, but execution is everything. Ideas are not a product, but notebooks, binders, and computer files filled with ideas are. Success doesn't come from ideas, it comes from executing ideas. It's like knowledge is not power, it's the utilization of that knowledge that gives somebody power. 8 is, I believe leadership is earned, not given. Real leaders involve people. They inspire, motivate, and make their employees feel capable and skilled. Okay, they're in the journey of it together. 9, they believe in paying it forward. Okay, they work hard to earn a raise. They deliver greater value and then earn higher prices. Okay, successful people see compensation as a reward for exceptional effort, not just the driver. And last, they believe they will make their own history. They're not waiting for someone else to. Okay, this is what delightfully successful people do, the core beliefs. We can stand in the forefront of the mirror or major change, even if only our niches or communities. We're willing to try something new. Someday we'll look back with pride and realize we've done something. And it isn't the best kind of success, the delightful kind.
The delightful kind, and that's what's possible for you once you remove the chatter of the core belief in your head. That's what's possible. So are we shrinking that tune?
And as they say, the clock's a tyrant. So we are going to shrink a tune, and today it's a song called Encoder by Pendulum.
I love the title. I thought it was perfect for the
and so we're going to
Panel
I'm going
three.
to read the song and the lyrics, and we're going to interpret it and see how it sounds. You couldn't even show yourself out. You were so held up by your thoughts. Along the way we got divided, and I'm not showing you the door. You couldn't look me in the eyes.
Okay, so here we're talking about the encoding of the self-esteem. So this person has such low self-esteem, she couldn't even show herself out because she was in her own thoughts, probably not so positive. And they got divided not because he's not showing up, but because she's so in her own world that she can't even look him in the eye and have a relationship.
So I'll dim the lights when you take me out on your side. We're standing out of sight. Believe me, I'm on your side.
Yeah, he's on her side, but she's so inside of herself,
Right.
not on her side, that she can't tell that he's on her side. So there's not a lot of light there. The lights are really dim.
It took so long for me to speak up. It was the hardest thing to say. Taken right up to the entrance. At the last minute, turned away. Just can't look into your eyes.
Boy, this person really wants to connect with this person,
Yeah,
doesn't he?
yeah.
And she can't do it because she's just not.
Can't even look in the eyes.
She can't make herself emotionally available, and that comes from cause, right?
Absolutely
Parents weren't
does.
emotionally available. Now she's unemotional and unavailable to herself and others. It's a beautiful thing.
So let's dim the lights. Get a case of back up your pride. It's over. We're out of time. Don't leave me. I'm on your side.
So this guy really wants to be a couple bubble, doesn't he? He wants to really
he
soothe
does.
her and be in her world, and he's saying, not a 6-pack of beer, not a, whatever, $2 chuck, but get a case of back up your pride out, honey, and maybe we can do this ride
Right.
after all.
Maybe we get it right.
Right.
For everything that could have been, but at least we took a ride. There's no relief in better plans. Might as well let it die.
And it would be really nice to let die our old core beliefs. And one of the things that I do in my treatment plan is I test out people's core belief, and I shoot at them a core belief that I think might be theirs. And if it is, it really, really, really zings deep. And after some work, we test out the core belief again, and it just doesn't penetrate.
Doesn't penetrate as
No,
much.
it doesn't penetrate. And
and
that's
that-
how we know we're making progress.
Making progress.
Yeah.
And not only that, Judy, but the progress is permanent.
That's right.
Okay?
It's not
This is not some form of a Band-Aid.
And
Because you've
it's-
actually gotten to the core of it,
Right.
the foundation of it, and the response and the reaction to whatever caused it before isn't the same. Thereby, it will never be the same, and thereby you will never be the same.
and it's a paradigm shift. It's
And it's a
not
huge
just
paradigm shift.
It's not just I just want to say this last thing. It's not just about affirmations. I'm beautiful, I'm
No.
beautiful, I'm smart,
No.
I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy. No, we get right to the cause and we dismantle, and then we go back into expressing the repress. And we'll talk much more about that as we flow through the panels.
And if you want to call Dr. Judy and talk to her about this, you can. You can call her directly at area code 310-739-4491. That's 310-739-4491. Or just write it at info@drjudywtf.com. So thanks for tuning in. Next week we're going to do panel 4 of The Hole in the Soul and the
chaos.
and we're gonna get some chaos.
Yes.
We're maybe have to find some stuff from Maxwell Smart. And this has been your host, Walt Lusk, and now we're gonna play the tune Pendulum by Enforcer. Until next week. Encoder, excuse me. I'll put my glasses on.
No, Encoder by Pendulum. That's how it goes. Yeah.
That too. So God bless everyone, and stay tuned till next week.
God bless.